in the United States, and since at that moment he was the best in the United States, it's not just my opinion. All the people who know that as the best representative of the United States.
When we saw you in Big Bear, I guess 6 weeks ago, you were angry. You had a good reason to be angry. Given what has happened since, and that you lost the opportunity to have the fight that you were training for, how do you feel now? Are you still angry?
Когда мы с вами виделись последний раз в Big Bear, это было примерно 6 недель тому назад, я понимаю, что вы были очень недовольны, потому что возможность этого боя, к которому готовились, была потеряна. Вы по-прежнему так же недовольны, вы по-прежнему еще так злитесь на ситуацию, на свою...
Я не был недоволен, я был более разочарован, то есть то, что сорвался большой бой. Я был больше, наверное, разочарован, неправильное слово, что я был недоволен. Сорвался большой бой, в такую дату, я имею в виду большое событие. Повторюсь, я продолжал оставаться в зале, в тренировочном зале Big Bear Lake, и я хотел боя. В данный момент у меня то, что мы имеем сейчас, это вот тот лучший вариант.
Well, I wouldn't say I was really angry. I should use the word disappointed. It was a disappointment, but again, I wanted to stress, at that time, I was at my training boxing camp in Big Bear, and I wanted to be ready for that fight. So that's why, I'm not angry. I was disappointed, but I was ready to fight. I am ready to fight.
Doping in boxing is a dangerous and a very bad thing. Do you feel that the punishment that Canelo received was a correct one? Should it have been longer, shorter?
Конечно, допинг это, во-первых, незаконно, во-вторых, это очень опасная вещь в боксе, как и в других видах спорта. С вашей точки зрения, наказание, которое было применено к Канело, это правильное, или слишком слабое, или слишком сильное?
Вы со мной разговариваете о тех вещах, которых я не знаю, которых я не употребляю. То есть судить за допинг, для этого есть комиссия, то есть какое решение принимает комиссия, это на их совести. Я считаю просто, насколько я помню, наблюдал за такими ситуациями, то есть многие бы получили бы гораздо больше, то есть срок по дисквалификации, и многие бы в этом случае получили бы гораздо больше срок.
So you're talking and you're asking a question about stuff which I don't really know much, and I'm not using this stuff. And really, it's not up to me to decide what kind of disqualification, what kind of punishment should be given to those people who use those drugs or those dopings. So on the other hand, I know cases where, when in a similar situation, other fighters were given much longer disqualification. Suspension.
Gennady, is this the most unusual training camp for you? And was there a time when you didn't feel motivation to train?
Когда вы были в своем лагере подготовительном, у вас был какой-то момент, когда вы потеряли и чувствовали, что уже нет желания, мотивации продолжать готовиться к бою?
Говорить о мотивации вообще, я думаю, даже наверное, не стоит. В данный момент я рад тому, что у меня есть бой 5 мая. В данный момент я рад тому, что я активен. И я буду выходить и делать свою работу. То есть это чемпионский бой. Многие это понимают, осознают. И я рад, что я буду находиться в таком шоу, в такой ситуации.
I don't think it's really correct to talk about motivation. Not at all. I'm very active. I'm also very glad that I got a fight on May the 5th. It's a very important day, a very important fight for me. It will be a championship fight, and I think everyone should be looking forward to as I am.
Gennady, of course the belts are very important to you, for good reason. Are you worried that the IBF might try to strip you if you don't fight Deborah next and maybe fight Canelo instead?
Я знаю, что для вас вообще пояса очень важны. Вы не боитесь, что IBF заберет у вас пояс, потому что вы хотите согласиться на тот бой, который они хотели, чтобы провели.
Я думаю, наверное, надо сказать об этом, что эти все пояса, то есть пояса, конечно, это была одной из приоритетных целей объединить все пояса, но в данный момент вы сами видите, что это очень, не сказать невозможно, это просто это очень тяжело сделать в моей ситуации. И в данный момент, то есть если пояса даже будут забираться, либо как-то будем испытывать давление со стороны организации по извлечению пояса, то есть мы будем делать выбирать лучшие моменты, что для нас. То есть, те моменты более комфортные для нас.
Of course, initially it was an idea to have all this to have all these belts which are available, to unite it all, sort of speaking, one all these belts. But I understand it will be very hard right now, and I know that we may have some pressure from this organization which holds or controls one of the belts. So what we're going to do, choose what's the best for us, choose what's the best situation for us in this particular case.
Is it possible that you get rid of Vanas quickly and you could take that fight? I think the date is August 3rd, right? He's supposed to have to commit. Could you? No way. Right?
Impossible for Tom to be able to, especially when the Jacobs fight took 4 months to negotiate. Impossible. It's the same people. Same people.
Вопрос был такой, значит, если вы быстро победите, скажем, легко победите Ванесса, и если еще, значит, одна дата 3 августа, может быть, тогда еще вы сможете и этот бой на всякий случай, чтобы не потерять пояс, провести. Ну, Абель сказал, что нет, не получится так, потому что надо готовиться минимум 3 месяца к этому. Будете, пожалуйста.
Мой сейчас мой фокус только на следующем бою. Втором, если этот бой пройдет хорошо, то есть со вторым мы будем только думать, разговаривать.
I'm completely focused on my next, my fifth fight. Let's see how it goes. When we finish it, when we're done with this fight, then we'll talk about next possible fight.
You would hope that common sense and logic would prevail. I mean, to penalize a guy who's just trying to stay active, I mean, it just seems so silly, right? I mean, Abel, do you want to talk about that?
Especially when Derevchenko fought an 8-round fight in his last fight against a guy 22-22, that qualifies him to be like immediately. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But like Gennady said, let's take care of the 5th, and then Tom and the Brain Trust will get together and decide what's best for us.
I have a question here. It seems like no matter who Gennady fights, he's fought a lot of guys that are unheralded, easily could be overlooked, right? Like Dominic Quaid, William Monreal, but he always takes care of them in impressive fashion, whereas you've seen a lot of other fighters maybe go through the motions. How do you keep him focused on, especially with the disappointment of the downgraded opponent?
I think because of his background, because of his Kazakh upbringing and the Kazakh system that they had over there, they're very focused. It seems like every time I get somebody from that part of the world, they're all so focused on what they're doing. We're trying to break or equal a record right now, Bernard Hopkins. And if you look at Bernard's record, he fought Robert Allen 3 times, Antoine Eccles twice. We've never fought anybody on a rematch. So I think that people put him on such a pedestal that they expect him to be fighting the elite guys every time out. He fought 3 elite guys in a row, and if we continue to fight elite guys 3 or 4 times a year, we're going to be fighting Joshua next year, because there ain't that many elite guys.
How rare is it for you to see a fighter and a student stay such laser focus and not take anyone lightly?
Oh, it's a blessing. It's a blessing for a coach. Are you kidding me? It's completely rare. I've been over 40 years in this business. I don't think I've ever seen a fighter that way, that is just so focused on what he's doing, on what's next, that does his work. He said something about a short training camp. It wasn't a short training camp. We've been in camp for 10 weeks. It's just a change of opponents, but we've been training for an elite fighter on the 5th.
Bernard Hopkins was the same way, of course.
Yes.
Do you see any similarities between the two?
I think that they both have this mentality of a goal. Great fighters like that have this mentality of a goal that in their own mind, not in our mind, but in their own mind, what they want to achieve. And that's what keeps them focused, because there's nothing I can say, and there's no opponent's going to be out there for an elite guy like that that can just keep them on track. They do that.
What do you think of the idea that this is a major financial risk, but just because of the unpredictability of what we're saying?
Well, if you guys have followed Gennady Golovkin for any length of time, he's always said this is a sport to him. This is not a war. This is not out to hurt anybody. This is a sport. And to him, sport is more important than everything else. Yes, the money comes along with it, but sport is the most important thing.
Is there, Gennady, question for you. Is there a part of you that says, because I know you've talked about how negative the business of boxing has been of late, especially. Is there a part of you that says, I just want to give the fans a good fight on May 5th on Cinco de Mayo, let them gather, and we're going to, like, you know, beat down the business of boxing. The business of boxing is not going to stop me from taking a fight and allowing the people to gather and enjoy another Golovkin performance?
Говорили о негативных сторонах вообще этого бизнеса боксерского. Может быть, в конце концов, у вас есть желание показать хороший бой, чтобы они забыли там все негативные дела, сосредотачивались в спорте.
Мы сейчас в данный момент говорим вообще о чемпионских боях. То есть я часто читаю какие-то новости и очень часто наблюдаю тот момент, когда не дают значения этим боям, то есть вот моим оппонентам, либо моим боям не дают значения. Послушайте, я на протяжении последних 8 лет являюсь чемпионом, и я считаю, что в среднем весе, да, возможно, сейчас появились какие-то интересные бои, но на протяжении долгого времени не было тех боксеров, кто стоял рядом, близко ко мне, и поверьте нам, то есть это не из-за того, что пустой средний вес, а из-за того, что мы просто ярко выделяемся на фоне других оппонентов. И в данный момент это чемпионский бой, в данный момент это большой бой с участием. То есть и так просто и легко относиться к моим боям и говорить, вот, вы могли бы показать большой бой, интересный бой. То есть я считаю это неправильно, я считаю, что каждый бой с моим участием, то есть это чемпионский бой, чемпионский уровень, они все интересны, их все приятно наблюдать.
It's going to be a champion fight, and it's very important to remember about this. I think that for many years, in many cases, my opponents have been underestimated. I want to remind you that for 8 years I kept the middleweight title, and it's not because I didn't want to fight somebody. We didn't have enough opponents who would be of the same caliber. And I know that probably right now you have a few people who can measure up with me. But for 8 years, I was standing as a champion, and I was not refusing to fight anybody. So this is it's a big fight, it's a championship fight, and all the opponents who were fight were the people who were worthy of my bouts.
And circling back to what we were speaking about before, how do you stay focused on these lesser opponents, guys that you're expected to blow out and that that you're much better than, especially when you have the downgrade from Canelo to Thomas? Where does your focus come from?
Вы можете быть сосредоточены, столько сфокусированы, несмотря на все неприятные моменты из-за Canelo и так далее.
Жизнь, она вообще интересная штука, если подстраиваться под каждый негатив, то есть нас точно не хватит. То есть я делаю свою работу, и я рад, что я активный, я рад, что я буду в бою. То есть меня это и мотивирует, и я фокусируюсь на этом. Я рад просто.
Life is a very interesting thing, and if you will focus on negative, you're not going to last for very long. I like my work, I like my sport. That's what keeps me concentrated.
You enjoy the training? You enjoy all that?
Of course, every day.
You said a downgrade down to Vanes. Unfortunately, there was some negativity when the opponent was announced. Yet this opponent that we're fighting was fighting the guy that just fought Jacobs. And this opponent was favored over Jacobs. I'm sorry, over Saluski. Okay, well, there was some negativity.
I think Vanes is a lot better than Spike, for sure.
Oh, yeah, but so, and I think this guy this guy gave Jacobs, if we think Jacobs is the second or third best middleweight in the world, gave Jacobs all he could handle. And this guy was favored over that guy. So all we can do is just continue to train. All we can do is just continue to take fight after fight. And Every fighter in history, great fighters in history, just like Leonard or Duran, all those, took these kind of fights. Unfortunately, we're taking this fight for the wrong reason, but they all took the Bruce Finches and the Davey Boy Greens and the Andy Hawk Prices. You know, they all took those fights along their career to build the records. This wasn't to build the record. This was because we put in a circumstance that we had no control over.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines before guys like James Toney that would fight those kind of guys, and it was horrible sometimes. You knew he could have been better, right? Because he just couldn't.
Yeah, but I think, like I said a little while ago, there's not that many elite fighters for him to fight. We'll be fighting Joshua and Wilder next year because
Charlo's out there.
Huh?
Charlo's out there. Who looks?
You know what? I think that Charlo has gotten a couple gifts. Okay, Centeno quit against Julian Williams.
Sure.
Okay. And the guy that he fought before was a cripple before he got in the ring. And this boy is crying, and he's been called out by Jacobs. Jacobs wants to do something with him, and he's like shying away from that. Why? Let's do it.
But clearly, Charlo's a threat. He's athletic, he's big.
Oh, they're all a threat. They're all a threat. They all get to that level because they are a threat, because they're very good. But if Jacobs is calling them out, do it. Why wait? Why wait for, if everything happens the way it's supposed to happen in his career, we're talking about Charlo a year from now? Or something like that. Why not just get Jacobs and Charlo in the ring and see really if Charlo belongs, if he is a threat?
Who would you like him?
That's a great fight. I think Jacobs beats him, but I think that's a great fight. But Jacobs is not the same fighter that he was when he fought Golovkin. And you know, Saluski said it before the fight, if you remember. Saluski said Jacobs will never have a fight like he fought Golovkin because Golovkin took everything out of him.
Do you watch? Have you been watching these fights? I mean, there's been, there was so much talk for so long about there's no one in the middleweight division to really threaten you, but I don't think the middleweight division has ever been better than it is right now. Are you watching these other fights and seeing that and being excited about it?
Вы эти бои вообще видели? Вот часто говорят, что никого нет в среднем весе, который мог бы против вас устоять. Но сейчас вроде бы появились такие. Вы вообще видели эти бои? Что вы думаете о этих бойцах?
Я не смотрел бои целиком, то есть, да, я какие-то моменты наблюдал, но то есть, в данный момент меня вообще ничего никогда не впечатляет, наверное, что ли, или я стал. Я вообще фанат бокса, и то есть, я не видел в данный момент того, чтобы, от чего бы я бы, или просто не пришло еще то время, или может это не так долго длится, то есть еще не было того, кто произвел бы большое впечатление.
Well, I saw some part of those fights, and I haven't seen any of them in full, and I wasn't really particularly impressed. It's not like the best fight, but I didn't see anybody who will be like really something special. So yeah, maybe there's not enough time. Maybe somebody will come soon, but nothing so far.
What about you, Abel? Are you noticing anything in the division?
No, what I am happy about that there's 4 or 5 guys out there that are threatening anyway. But until if you recall back in the mid-'80s when those great middleweights were fighting, junior middleweights, they were fighting each other and proving to everybody that they were great. In qualifying to fight the Haglers and the Leonards, I would hope that they would get in the mix. Davchenko, Jacobs, Charlo, all the guys at the top that are thinking that they can deal with Golovkin, fight each other and see. But unfortunately today, a loss for them is like a death sentence.
What are your thoughts on Murata? He's obviously Murata.
Murata? That's a very viable fight. He is our kind of our mandatory because he is a WBA champion, regular champion. He's one of the guys that really hasn't said anything. But I'm sure that because of all the talk from the other guys, Gennady, if you follow Gennady for any length of time, you understand that Gennady is not one of those talkers. He's not going to play into Charlo, play into those guys that are talking. So if given an option for him, he'd rather go fight a guy that is a champion, that is not doing all that talking, that is going to be a legitimate fight, and he gets to unify his belt. But I think you can talk to Tom about that. I think that's a very viable fight. I think that Mr. Honda would be interested.
It's a big money fight. Absolutely. It's a big start.
On a scale of 0 to 100, Gennady, you win on Saturday night. 100% being that the fight will happen for sure. What's your confidence that Canelo Triple G happens in September with a victory on Saturday night?
Значит, если вы победите в бою в субботу, значит, на 100%, если взять как максимальная возможность, сколько, с вашей точки зрения, вообще вероятность того, что в сентябре будет бой с Канело?
Мне на самом деле очень тяжело об этом судить и рассуждать.
Difficult for me to speculate on this.
И говорить сейчас, то есть, наверное, даже, наверное, неразумно, потому что у нас 5 мая сорвался бой, который был гарантирован.
It's probably not very wise, to even talk about this because we have guaranteed fight with Canelo on the May 5th, and it was cancelled.
Просто с нашей стороны, как и всегда я говорил, то есть мы готовы, мы делаем максимум для того, чтобы этот бой был, так же, как и вот на 5 мая.
As far as we are concerned, we are ready. We are doing everything that this bout will be ready as it was in May 5th.
Мы идем на многие уступки, то есть мы шли на многие уступки, мы делали все для того, чтобы этот бой был. То есть я считаю, если откровенно говоря, я считаю, мы сделали гораздо больше для того, чтобы этот бой был. Мы гораздо больше сделали, чем кто-либо за всю историю. А этот бой в данный момент он не состоялся. Как можно говорить о сентябре? Та же самая картина будет. Мы сейчас будем только говорить и будем делать еще больше для сентября, и его, если вдруг не состоится, то есть мы на себе будем ощущать тот же негатив, который вот льется в прессе, то есть почему-то как-то обвиняют и нас, что мы вообще существуем, вообще, что мы вообще есть. Это их сторона, то есть, понимаете, мы здесь, мы готовы боксировать, мы действующие. То есть сейчас нету смысла говорить о сентябре.
Well, for this fight, which didn't happen for May 5th, we made a lot of concessions. We really made a lot of concessions. We made more concessions, much more concessions than the other side, and probably no one in history has made so many concessions. We wanted this fight to happen, but it didn't happen. So probably there is it makes no sense to talk about a September fight right now because it's because of many reasons.
So, question for you though. I mean, you say you made concessions, and I know you have. Now that Canelo has had his reputation sullied, so to speak, does this change the bargaining? You have the.
We should, Mike. Let's just focus on May 5 because Gennady had the best quote ever. Is that if he doesn't win May 5, there's no talk about a Canelo fight. One punch from him or Vanes could change his career or the fight. So let's just focus on May 5, and then after May 6, you can speak on it. I've been in regular contact with their opponents. It's his job to win May 5, and then if there's a way to schedule the fight, to reschedule the fight, that's the fight that fans want to see. It's the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, and the rematch is even bigger than the first fight. But for Gennady, he's been in training camp with Abel Sanchez. They're 100% focused on this fight. If he's 95% focused and he has a misstep on Saturday, look, Vanes is a very hungry, frustrated fighter that is a huge opportunity for him. He hasn't fought for 2 years, but it's not like he hasn't been training. He was training to fight Zaleski and was in the middle of his training camp when the call came to fight Triple G, but he took the Danny Jacobs fight. So he's very hungry. Whatever some East Coast media might say, he's a very dangerous opponent if Gennady's not 100% focused. The East Coast media that aren't that familiar with Vanes that don't understand the situation.
But let me ask you this. I mean, we know what Gennady's really thinking. And the thing is like on the way over here, I was talking to Oscar, and he said Gennady still has to win on Saturday night.
Right.
When you hear something like that, I mean, doesn't your,
But the safe thing, Lance, the safe thing.
I'll be there. Bring my Canelo.
I don't need to speak for Gennady, but the safe thing would have been for him to say, you know what, it's the biggest fight in his career, biggest fight in boxing. I'll just wait 4 months and then we'll do the fight in September. Look at Tony Bellew and David Haye. That's even a longer situation.
So was it a question to Gennady?
Yeah.
То есть эта часть.
It doesn't make sense to put questions to him. It's all about speculation. Like you said. He's focused on Saturday.
Не, я говорю тоже, что вообще очень много говорят, и если обращать внимание настолько, сколько вокруг меня говорят, то есть это голова лопнет. Я остаюсь самим собой вообще.
I remain myself. You know, there are a lot of talks about me, a lot of talks around me. But you know, if one pays attention to all the talks and all the rumors, you know, what possible to stay and focus. You know, I'm just remaining where I am, remaining myself.
Connie, how's the ice hockey going? You still skating? Still going with your son?
Ice skating?
Yeah.
А вы на коньках еще катаетесь с сыном своим?
Я лично бы не хотел говорить, мы говорим о боксе сейчас.
I want to talk about my private life here. We're talking about boxing here.
Yeah. Abel, I think what Lance is trying to get at, are you trying to send a message with how you fight on Saturday night?
No, absolutely not. Vanes is Vanes and Canelo's Canelo, and when the time comes for them to sit down, as Gennady expressed a little while ago, Gennady made a lot of concessions for that. And Gennady wants to take care of Vanes on the 5th and then sit down and talk.
When you say that, it sounds like you're saying you want a better deal this time.
Not necessarily. I think that the 5th is gone. That contract and that situation is gone. Now Tom and Gennady have to sit down and decide what it is they want.